Terrence Shannon Jr. was found not guilty, and we analyze where his draft stock lies, what changes, plus what other stars in college are on the rise. Find out next on Locked On NBA Big Board. Hello and welcome into Locked On NBA Big Board. I'm Leif Thulin. I'm joined by James Barlowe, and it's a late night episode here, but we're excited to talk about this one because I love college basketball. James loves college basketball, and these dudes were running college basketball. We got Terrence Shannon Jr., Zach Edey, Devin Carter, Baylor, Scheiermann, Dalton Knecht. All of these guys are on the rise, and we're going to talk about it next. But first, I want to tell you guys that today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. So go to Prize Picks on Locked On NBA. Make sure to use the promo code Locked On NBA for a first deposit match up to $100 and enjoy and hopefully win some money. So, James, the big news is obviously Terrence Shannon Jr. had an ongoing rape case that made him miss 6 games of the Illini basketball season, came back and was probably an even better player after returning. They made the Elite Eight, and he had a dominant path until he ran into UConn. And his draft stock was plummeted. And without getting into the bigger ramifications of him kind of having his career altered and all these things, from the basketball sense, what does him being proven innocent do for his basketball stock? Is it too late for him to rise up boards? Because his season was excellent. Like, it was meriting first round stuff. And I've long been a TJ or a Terrence Shannon Jr. non-believer. When he was at Texas Tech, didn't love him. Last year at Illinois, didn't love him. This was clearly his best season. And based on basketball itself, he warranted a first-round grade easily. Can he get that momentum, not having that many workouts, not being able to play at the combine? Is there a chance he gets his way up there because he is now innocent?
That's a good question. And for those same reasons that the NBA was kind of like just monitoring his situation because it was up in the air, I couldn't give him a first round grade because I just had no clue how his situation was going to play out. So, but at the same time, like, now that he's been exonerated, like, he can work out. And I know NBA teams have been, trying to check and see. I think he may have a chance to sneak into the first round. Obviously, the main thing in his favor that he was ruled innocent, but from a basketball standpoint, and we had mentioned it before in other podcasts, those other wings going back to school, namely Hunter Salas, Tyon Grant Foster, drawing the blank, Jameer Watkins, like that opened the door for other wings to move up. So I guess you can say without playing basketball in a sense, or being in front of scouts, he did catch a break there. But now that he's a free man, I fully expect his agents to put him through the ringer of workouts. And I feel like he does have an opportunity to crack in the first round. If you look at guys like, and it's funny, Johnny Furphy, he had a green room invite. And I'm a little lower on Furphy than others. And to me, I was really surprised that he did get a green room invite. But like, I feel like Terrence Shannon, he can steal that position as a first round pick. So, but most importantly, that basketball aside, I'm glad the young man gets his life back, because allegations, when they're false, they can ruin anybody's life. So kudos to him. And just really last thing about it, I think while scouts weren't able to watch him play while he was going through his trial situation, when he did play, when he was reinstated, like, he was able to compartmentalize and play at a high level and lead that Illini team very deep into the NCAA tournament. And to me, that says a lot about his mental toughness. You especially in college basketball. Look, I've been around some college basketball games. Some wild stuff can be said. I went to a game. I'm dating myself, but there was a player from Iowa that had some allegations. They played Iowa State. That's already a nasty environment. And every time that guy touched the ball, fans let him know about it. And they were talking about Terrence Shannon Jr. And he was able to lock in on basketball, and that's a lot to do. And I was impressed with how well he played with everything that was going on in his life.
And his role changed when he came back. Like, I know this is a college basketball junkie take right here, but Terrence Shannon Jr. entering that year was the star for the Illini. He was supposed to be an All-American, and obviously played an All-American level. But Marcus Damas became the focal point on offense. He kind of backed his way to the basket, kicked the ball out, and Shannon would attack closeouts and use his speed to score in transition. And without getting too deep into their play style, let me just tell you guys some stats about Terrence Shannon. He scored 23 points per game, 4 boards, 2.5 assists, a steal, shot 36 from 3, 48 from the field, and 80 from the line. Now, I'll backtrack a little bit. This is an interesting moment because I went to a Texas Tech tournament game, and 2 of them actually. I went to the first round of the 2022 and the second round of the 22 tournament, and Texas Tech was playing Notre Dame, and I really liked Blake Wesley, who's super quick, knows how to get to the rack. And Terrence Shannon, I kept saying, I was like, man, I like McCullough more than Terrence Shannon. They were teammates at the time. Like, he makes basketball, they makes winning plays, whereas Shannon's this talented player who hogs the ball. Mm-hmm. And I believed that. And then, sure enough, Shannon transfers, and McCullough stays 1 more year, and he's really good. Now McCullough gets this spotlight earlier in this season when he's with Kansas scoring a lot. But when his role became a brighter role as, hey, he's on the ball, I liked McCullough less. And as Shannon developed, he developed on the ball and used his athleticism for good, as opposed to just kind of sporadic, hey, I'm only going left. I'm going to either shoot a mid-range jump shot or try to go crashing into the rim. So now Shannon gets to the line at an elite level. That's probably his best trait. He uses his defense and to start offense, gets out in transition. He rebounds the basketball. He passed better than he had. And McCullough, to me, what he is Torrey Craig. And I know that we're not comparing him as a star on the rise, but he was going to be an All-American as well. And you look at the two, and McCullough, to some before his injury, would have been a first-rounder, not for me. And I was as high as they came for McCullough 2-3 years ago. I don't think many people knew about Kevin McCullough on Texas Tech. I was shouting from the rooftops about him. I was low on Shannon, but now Shannon's easily the better player for me, both in college and in the NBA. So I think with him being exonerated, and if you just watch film against other guys that are deemed to be first rounders, he's clearly the better basketball player. The only knock you can actually put on him, now that the legal stuff is put to bed, is age. And that's a fair knock, but he's a hyper athlete. Like, it's not one of those things that, oh, this guy's age, like he's already kind of what he is. Like, he's got the athleticism. He's ready to play in the maturation sense. So I actually think he will end up being picked around 35, but I probably will put him as a first round grade. And if people dig up my receipts, I was quite low on Shannon.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and really pay attention. But if he goes in the 30s and you look back at this time next year, I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of those guys that was like, we stole him. You know, we did our due diligence, and he was able to contribute right away.
Yeah, I will say my one hesitancy is he shot 36% from 3. And I mentioned this about Devin Carter, who we're going to talk about soon as well. Devin Carter had 1 good year of shooting the rock. Matas Buzelis, we talked about as someone who played in the G League. In high school, even, he only had 1 good year. Well, Shannon, not a great shooter in 4 of his 5 years as a college basketball player. He became a high-volume shooter in his 4th and 5th year, and he improved. But is he going to be a good shooter when it's catch and shoot, as opposed to kind of the rhythm shooting that I thought played better at? And I don't have the numbers to tell you with absolute certainty he's off the dribble in comparison better than his catch and shoot, but I watched a ton of Illinois basketball, and I think Shannon was at his best when people feared him going downhill, and he just stopped and shot the 3, as opposed to being a catch and shoot guy, because he'd rather attack the closeout than shoot it.
Interesting, yeah.
All righty. Well, coming up next, we got a lot more college stars. We talked about first-team All-Americans. Why not the Player of the Year, Zach Edey, a couple other guys with green room invites, and more. Are the college stars surging? It hasn't happened in years, but it may well happen this year. So we're going to talk about that next. But first, I got to tell you a little bit about Prize Picks. All right, so what is Prize Picks, you may be wondering. We've been telling you guys about it, but Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It's the most fun and exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. With Prize Picks, you could turn $100 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats projections, and then you're locked in. And I like to do it on tennis personally, especially during the Grand Slams. But if you guys want more hoops, when the finals are over, which the Mavs just extended it one more game at least, the hoops action doesn't stop on Prize Picks. Women's basketball is just getting started with young stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make names for themselves, alongside greats like Brianna Stewart and Aja Wilson. You could win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. Download the app today and use Locked On NBA for the first deposit match up to $100. So welcome back to Locked On NBA Big Board. I got one more question for you guys. Are you guys still watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All righty, so Leif Thulin and James Barlowe back here, and we're talking about collegiate stars, which is something I love and I'm really passionate about, just college basketball in general. But I've seen a ton of these guys, and I'm really happy they're getting their flowers in the NBA draft community and not being overthought because they're older. All these guys, TJ Shannon, fifth-year senior, Zach Edey, fourth-year senior, Devin Carter played his years at Providence, developed later, Dalton Knecht, fifth-year senior, Baylor Scheiermann, fifth-year senior. And I think all these guys are on the rise. Are there any of these guys that you don't think like their stock is? If you were to take the hottest names in college basketball or in the NBA draft, I think these are the 5 hottest names. And it's ironic to me that they're all American caliber basketball players in the college ranks, not just potential guys.
I'm looking at this list and I'm like, that might be 4 first round. Really, if you count Shannon, that might be 5 first round picks over the age of 22. When is the last time that we've seen that? And then if you add in Tristan Da Silva, that could be 6. Like, that's amazing, man. I can't remember that since I've been like a little kid. And, I'm an old man. So it's amazing. And you can't really argue against it because, like, these guys are ready to go. Zach Edey, he won me over, man. I was in denial. I wasn't a believer. But seeing him in the tournament dominate, I know he's going to dominate the regular season Big Ten conference play. I mean, he's going to go down as one of the best big men really of the past 25 years in college basketball, namely because he stayed for 4 years. But like watching him, I guess taking off my hater glasses for a moment, like I can see the value that he will bring in the NBA. I think he's gonna have to defend in space, and ultimately that's what it's gonna come down to. But as far as like ducking in, and if he gets the ball and he shoots over his left shoulder, you might as well just run down the court because he's got great touch from inside the paint. And you look at teams like the Clippers, Zubats had success. We had talked about it before, like nobody really can guard Jonas Valanciunas. It's just that he can't defend for 34 minutes a game in the NBA. So I guess I would compare Edey to those two guys. Zubats was a second round pick, I believe, while Valanciunas was a 5th pick in the draft, but there was obviously a difference in philosophy between when they were drafted. But I feel like Zach Edey is going to have success. While on my mock, I have him in the 20s, but I'm buying him as an NBA player. Wasn't as high on him before, but I'm here now.
Yeah, I'm in a similar frame in terms of I watched a ton of him over the last couple of years at Purdue. And I always thought, well, this guy is going to dominate college basketball, but the NBA is too fast. And then you watched him kind of emulate what some of these bigger body guys in the NBA did, but do it better. Mm-hmm. And then you look at the combine, I attended it. He performed better than Alex Sarr, whose best attributes, if you're talking about just generalities, not basketball, are probably athletic. It's not like he's this knockdown shooter. He shoots 28% from 3. So Sarr's best attributes, and for most of this process, he's been regarded as the number 1 pick. Maybe Reese Shea passes him. But let's just say the number 1 pick possibly performs worse athletically than the 7'4", 300-pound guy. Well, that's what happened. And it was visible. And then he was shooting threes. I'm not saying he's going to go knock him down all the time, and that's what you're going to ask. But his touch is good. He shoots a ton of free throws, shot well. He hits the jump hook at a high level. And the one thing I have a question about, and this is just probably schematic of Purdue, is Purdue's guards do not get downhill whatsoever. So pick and roll is very much a pick. They get to the 3-point line or maybe 18 feet, and then they throw a high ball into Zach Edey's hands because he's taller than everyone, which he still will be. But the NBA doesn't shoot the shots that Purdue would. They would be Braden Smith coming off a screen shooting an 18-footer or throwing a short distance rocket into Edey on a post up. The NBA doesn't want post up, so I wonder how good of a roller he is because he's not a vertically blessed athlete in terms of how high he jumps. And so he's kind of a low, like kind of a slow jumper and a slow roller. And I wonder how they're going to transition him into a better roller as opposed to kind of like a sink into the post after setting a screen. And so that's just a nuanced take, but the athleticism stood out to me. The shooting, not that I didn't believe he could shoot because he shot well from free throws, but it makes you think he's more well-rounded. So I think he's a guy who's now pretty likely to go in the top 20. And I would have told you a couple months ago, I don't think, even though there's all this hullabaloo, that he's not going to go in the first round. And I'm pretty sure that he would be a top 20 pick if it happened today.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question before we move on to the next guy. You were there. Alex Sarr didn't test athletically as well as you thought he would. Do you think that was because of his mindset going into it, or do you think that he doesn't test well athletically? So my thinking is his best defensive film, his best defensive tape is him guarding Ron Holland in that G League Ignite showcase game, right? And to me, that's basically all you need to see as far as his talent, his ability to defend on the perimeter at 7'1", which he did measure at, which is crazy. But new to the combine this year is that everybody had to test. Years prior, guys like Alex Sarr, they wouldn't show up to that. They wouldn't have to. So it's like, do you think it could have been a mindset thing where he had the Marshawn Lynch, I'm only here so I don't get fined? Or do you think he really just, like Zach Edey, tested better physically as far as the shuttle drill and whatnot?
I think Sarr's not as explosive an athlete as people build him to be because they expect someone with the versatility to slide to be this vertically twitchy athlete. But I do think he probably is a better athlete than he showed, probably because of mindset, maybe preparation. Maybe he was heavier than he plays at, some stuff like that. But I don't think, even watching the film, yes, he protects the rim, but he also is 7 foot and long. Like, and I don't think it's the athleticism that allows him to protect the rim the way he does. And yes, he's able to slide a little bit on the perimeter. And like you said, Holland was his best tape. Like, if that game did not happen, I'm firmly convinced that Sarr would be like the 7th pick of this draft instead of potentially 1 or 2. And I mean, I'm not saying because of that would be what he merits. It's just like that's the type of thing that like sets you apart. Like, he had a showcase, and he was the person who stole the show, and it's supposed to be the showcase for Buzelis and Holland. Like, it almost happened with Scoot Henderson, and people said, "Hey, is Scoot the better prospect over Wemby because he had an awesome first half?" And I mean, I get it; it's reactionary, but it is what it is. But long story short, I think he's a good positional defender who has athletic traits. I don't think he's this athletic specimen that sometimes he's compared to. Like, I think Jonathan Isaac's one of the most ridiculous defensive athletes there is in the NBA, and he's compared to him frequently. And I don't think that's an apt comparison.
Yeah. I think Sarr is more, if this may not make sense, but to me it does. So I guess that's what matters. But he's more fast than athletic. So like you see him run in transition, like he runs like a wing. But is he like above the rim explosive, like vertical? No. Now he will play, but I mean, he's 7 foot and he's athletic, but I think his athleticism is more his foot speed in transition than anything else.
I'm with you right there. All right. Coming up next, we're going to talk about All-Americans still. Believe it or not, we got 3 more All-Americans, and actually make it 4 because I didn't put Tyler Kolek on here. But Tyler Kolek is also above 22 years old. So we got 6 players above 22 that are likely to be first rounders. So we're going to talk about some All-Americans, absolutely fantastic college players that we think are going to be picked pretty highly in this draft, which, like we said, is a rarity. But first, let me tell you about LinkedIn. when you're hiring for a small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board that I peruse frequently. LinkedIn also helps you hire professionals that you can find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit the leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All righty, back here with James Barlowe. I'm Leif Thulin, and we're talking about All-Americans who are rising up draft boards. And that's not a common sentence in the draft community since I've been doing it, but even since James has been doing it and people well before us. The league has shifted, but it's back. And we got Devin Carter, who I think he's a green room invitee. We talked about that the other day. We got Dalton Knecht. He's a green room invitee. We got my guy Baylor Scheiermann, who I've not only myself been searching out for. I've been getting tagged in things saying Scheiermann's going top 20. And I was like, okay, I told you so. And then you got Tyler Kolek, who is projected as a first rounder. Devin Carter I know the Jazz like him. I don't know how much that interest means, but the Jazz are picking 10th. Is that kind of the ceiling of where he goes? Is there a chance he goes higher than 10? I know you're a little lower on him than maybe where some of the people are. I have him, I think 15th right now, maybe 16th. And I think he's probably going to go higher than I have him, but I just wonder how real the shooting is. So what's your take on Carter, and how real is this hype that he's going to go in the top 10, top 12?
See, when I hear that he has a guarantee from a lottery team, I'm like, that's a lot. And like we've mentioned before on previous podcasts, I don't know if the shooting is real. And like that is a huge swing skill because while there are a lot of things to love about Devin Carter, the intensity, the defense, the rebounding, when a teammate went down, I always forget his name, Bryce
Hopkins.
Bryce Hopkins went down. He stepped it up. But at the next level, he's not a point guard, I don't think. And I don't think he's a lead guard. I think he is not even a combo guard. He is somebody you can play next to your point guard who's going to guard the point guard. He's going to bring the energy. He's going to play hard. So with that being said, if the shooting isn't real, again, this is the draft of the old heads, but at 22 with one good shooting season, like that does cause some alarm for me. I will on my next mock, which I'll probably put out next week, I'll probably have him in the teens. And that's probably just because of my preference and not because of like the intel or the rumors that are going by. But like I'm buying him as a high level like role player, but we've mentioned it before. Like Davion Mitchell, he had one hot year, and then granted, Devin Carter is probably 2-3 inches taller, but he's still a small guard. But he had that one hot year, and he just had not been able to translate his hot shooting from Baylor to the NBA. Now you can sit here and say, well, some of that is just the situation that he's in, but ultimately, like it doesn't matter because when you're drafted in the lottery, you're expected to be able to contribute. And Davion Mitchell does contribute, but like he just hasn't been able to replicate that shooting that he did have at Baylor.
Yeah, Davion Mitchell, for those of you thinking about this, he shot 45%. So it was almost to a point where it was not going to be 45% at the next level anyway, but you'd expect it still to be good. But he shot 31% the year before that at Baylor and then poorly at Auburn before that. The guy that Carter reminds me of most clearly is Derek White. And obviously Derek White's getting the spotlight right now because he's on the finals on the Celtics, who are leading 3-1. But Derek White played at a JUCO school. Ironically enough, I commentated a few of their games when a school in Utah played against them. And I was like, man, Derek White played in this gym. I'm calling the game. That's pretty strange. But Derek White went to Colorado, scored 18 a game, but shot 39% from three. So it's similar path, not that Providence and the path of going to UCCS to Colorado is similar, but he had 1 year of prominence where he was the guy. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I think Carter is. But because Derek White has had this success and that it's proven, that older players can help teams right now, I think it's really helping pave the way for a guy like Carter. It's interesting to me, but the real skill is for him is rebounding. Yes, he's a really good defender, but he gets 9 rebounds a game. And when he was called into action, he scored about 20 points a game, 9 boards. Defensively he was the second best defender in the Big East, in my opinion, maybe third best, but behind Kalkbrenner, who won the award, Klingon, and then I would say Carter was the third best. And then you still have all those UConn dudes that were unbelievable.
Was he a better defender? Again, we didn't get to see the full
than Castle.
Well, even on his team, Gary DeWall, he didn't play the minutes. But
I think Carter was the better defender. 1, because he was available.
Yes.
And 2, he took the best. He guarded the best players every matchup. Like even when both were on the floor, Carter guarded the best players. But DeWall's got all the traits. Mm-hmm. Speaking of a guy with some traits, Dalton Knecht, one of the best shooters in this class. Is he a lock in the top 10? Is there any way he even finds his way to 11? Because what I'm hearing, I don't talk to too many NBA personnel too often, but I did interact with someone who's pretty informed today, and he was talking about how Dalton Knecht's got some. I think he said he's got fanfare from teams drafting 6 through 9, and I think there's a real way he's drafted before my Jazz pick. Is there a way he falls past 10 even?
If you're asking if I would do it, sure, he would fall past 10. Again,
well, give your rationale on that one then.
So it's
I kind of with you, honestly, even though I feel like I like Knecht. I do like
guy. Him. I do like him, but this is the draft of the older guys. I get it, but we're still talking about a 23-year-old shooter. Scorer who might end up just being a shooter. Now, he'll be able to shoot the ball very well, but it's like I mentioned it before. If I want a wing who can score and shoot, I would take Jalen Tyson over Dalton Knecht, and I'm probably the only one on that island, and that's perfectly fine with me. You know, I'll be cast away, but I just feel like Knecht is not a playmaker, and I think ultimately he's going to be like a Max Strus type, or better, I guess you could say a best case. That's not even the best case, but like Cameron Johnson. Cam Johnson went 10, I think, in his particular draft. So maybe it does line up, but Cam Johnson is 6'8", Knecht is 6'6". And even then Cam Johnson got sent off to Brooklyn for picks. It's still kind of hard for me to grasp taking a 23-year-old who is a scorer that high.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the best case scenario for Knecht is like a smaller version of Bojan Bogdanovic, who is on the Jazz, and he kind of used his body, which was big for a small forward position, to create inside scoring, and then was obviously an excellent shooter coming off pin downs and corner threes on a very good, well-spaced team for the Jazz. I don't think he's obviously not that big, but he is a big. If he plays the 2, he's a big guy.
Yes.
He's 6'6", broad-shouldered, whereas Bojan Bogdanovic is 6'8", big body. So it's similar role, different position. He can shoot the ball, but I think he's somewhere in between like the specialist role of Max Strus and Bojan Bogdanovic. But to me, if you're drafting and everyone's electing to draft safely, if you're drafting in that late lottery or even mid lottery stage, you should look at some of the potential and more differently than you do most years, because most of the potential guys are also really proven and they're very good at basketball. And this year there isn't that star power at the top. So I think there's almost this reverse psychology where you want to draft on potential in this draft in the mid section of that lottery more than other years where you're like, oh, let's just get a role player right here. Because, hey, what the heck? You don't know even if those safe guys are going to pan out. Speaking of a safe guy I do think is going to pan out, though, Baylor Scheiermann. I've given this pitch. I gave it yesterday. I've given it a million times. The guy's really good at shooting the basketball. The guy's really good at rebounding the basketball. He's played multiple roles, and I think role versatility is the new big thing. Like 3-and-Ds took over a little bit ago. Role versatility is the new thing. He played point guard at South Dakota State, shot 45% there, transferred up to Creighton, regressed, I guess you could say, and he was at 37%, but was on a really good team that made the Elite Eight, nearly made the Final Four. Then he played on this year's team, which was a 3 seed, played very well. 19 points, 9 rebounds, 39% from 3, 4 assists. At the combine was the best player, and people there didn't know who I was, and they'd be like, "Hey, what'd you think?" And I'd ask them, and they'd say, "Oh my God, Baylor Scheiermann's the best player on this court. He talked the most. He won all the drills, shot better than even Shepard and Knecht in most of the drills, and I mean they were close numbers, but I think if you added all their tallies up, he had the highest tally of those guys, and I think he was the biggest winner of the combine. And I think he's going to go in the top 20. I know I'm really high on him, and I'm beating a drum. And we've talked about this before, but it seems like there's momentum gaining on even just Twitter, but it seems like he's almost green room-ish. Like, I don't think he's going to get the invite, but I think he's going to be a top 20 pick.
Yeah, I talking to you, Leif. Shoot, even before I met you on here, like my brother was like, "Man, look, Leif loves Baylor Scheiermann." So I get on Synergy and I watch, and I'm like, "That looks like Joe Ingles, man." And like, you will absolutely take Joe Ingles in any draft, right? And we talked about the 3-and-D position. Kind of, I think it should be phasing out, or I guess not as relied upon as heavy, because when those guys aren't making shots, what else they do? Baylor Scheiermann can pass, right? He can rebound. Is he going to be a pick and roll like playmaker? No, but you chase him off the line, he's going to make the right play, right? And shout out to my brother. He texted me before, and I don't want to steal his thunder, but he said Baylor Scheiermann shot 81 of 100 from 3 in a workout with the Celtics, either today or yesterday.
Doesn't shock me whatsoever.
He has a certified heater, right? And because he's a great shooter, he's not limited, because he's, like you mentioned before, he's played point guard. Like, he is a legit wing. Top 20 is going to be hard, because he's going to be similar to like Terrence Shannon to me, where when you look back at it, like, all right, well, we should have took him in the top 20. There's always going to be the upside guys, especially, I mean, it's still the NBA. He's a good enough athlete, but somebody's gonna pick the more athletic younger guy over him at some point in the draft. But he's a first round pick to me.
I'm almost willing to bet. I'm not going to say that we're betting here, but I will put a friendly wager of just we'll talk after the draft. I think he legitimately will be a top 20 pick. Like, not that I think he will be, because I do. I think he actually will go in the top 20. Last guy here. What do you make of Tyler Kolek? Because I don't know if we've spoken about him. He's a guy that I love watching, because I'm a point guard by nature. I love watching crafty players, someone who makes the most out of what they have, and then also makes his teammates better. That's what he does better than just about anyone in this draft. He creates very well. Oso Ighodaro benefited from having Tyler Kolek. Cam Jones benefited from Tyler Kolek. Olivier Maxence Prosper last year benefited from Tyler Kolek. And I think in terms of what he did on film is really good. The limiting factor for him is age and then measurables. But I felt like he was a guy who performed well at the combine, shot well. He was another guy like Carter, who not a great shooter, historically had a great shooting season. So what do you make of Tyler Kolek?
I think I have him as a second round pick. I personally can't take him in the first round. Again, the age, it's concerning. The passing is great. The playmaking is great. I just don't think he has the measurables to be in my eyes, a first round pick as far as like at the point guard position. I'm with you on the team upside, and I feel like there's some upside guys that I would take ahead of him, in particular at point guard. But I do think Tyler Kolek is an NBA player, and he's going to be a very good backup for a very long time. I know some people like him to Phoenix. I don't think a rookie point guard, even though he is old by NBA standards for a rookie, I don't think a rookie point guard is the answer to Phoenix's problems at the point guard position. I think they need a savvy, old veteran to help them out as far as distributing the ball. So with that being said, I have Kolek in the second round, but he's going to be a really good backup point guard for a long time.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got him right on the cusp. And I think Phoenix may look at a guard, but I don't think that's for their immediate future. I think it's down the road.
They need somebody for down the road, because they're a Kevin Durant tweet from a whole new team minus, Devin Booker. So, yeah.
They're in a tenuous spot. Well, that'll do it. It was a fun episode talking about the collegiate stars of this past year. We got more fun stuff coming for you next week as we hear more and more rumors, and we keep watching film over here at Locked On NBA Big Board. So can't wait to do it again with you, James. Thank you for hopping on.
Sure.
And want to make sure to let you guys know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Well, that'll do it from Locked On NBA Big Board, and we will be back with you next week.